Hello and welcome to episode 32 of the unofficial SAP on Azure Video Podcast. Today is March 11th, and together with Goran and Robert, we're here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
So today we have Ram joining us and talk about the new enhancement and features around the Azure Monitor for SAP solutions. But as always, before we go there, let's quickly take a look at some of the news from this week. So I actually want to start with an announcement on the Azure Backup Center, or the backup solution in Azure. So we just released, or there was just this announcement that we will now have a dedicated center, a dedicated place in Azure from where you can really manage, more or less all your backup needs in Azure. So as you know, obviously, we have this, and we talked about this in the past. We have the Azure Backup solution also for SAP HANA. So there's this native integration into HANA that allows you to really manage the backups from your SAP system that is running in Azure. And now here with this Backup Center, we're really bringing not only obviously the SAP stuff together, but really all the related Azure topics in one place. So I think that's fairly interesting. If obviously you not only are using Azure Backup for SAP, but also for your other workloads. So I think you can definitely check out the Azure Backup Center here. And then actually jumping around a little, just this week was also SAP Now. So it was a German only, or I think it was only in Germany. I actually don't know if it was a global event, but I watched some of the events in Germany at least, and one session that was there was for the customer MLP. And the interesting thing with the customer MLP is that it's in the finance industry, and obviously always in Germany. There are a lot of regulations. Can I run, if I'm a finance customer, can I run my workload on Azure? Can I run it in the cloud? And in this session together with SAP, it was really interesting because MLP really talked about their experiences, their digital transformation of migrating their systems on-premise to Azure, and then how they can actually really work in a compliant way, obviously, with their SAP system on Azure. So I think SAP Now is also still open. I mean, you can still, I think, register and then watch these sessions on demand. So I definitely can recommend this. Fairly short. It's like 25 minutes session. So it's in German, but I think it's definitely worth checking out and listening to MLP and Microsoft and SAP on this. Another customer story that I saw was the one from ServiceNow, and that was quite interesting for me because obviously most of you know that Bill McDermott moved over to ServiceNow, and ServiceNow has a fairly big SAP footprint, I would say. So they're talking here about 10 SAP landscapes, 50 databases, 50 terabyte of storage, and in this customer story, they talk about how they actually migrated all these 50 terabytes into Azure, what they consider doing, how they did it. So I think that's a fairly interesting story on ServiceNow and how they moved their estate to Azure. So I think that's definitely also worth checking out. Then another site on the SAP side. I think Goran, you brought this up. You found this on the SAP pages. I think it's a beautiful. Or let's start with this. We talked about the whole partnership with SAP also in one of our previous calls with Veronika Reger. And I think this is just another nice example of how SAP and Microsoft are working together and showcasing some scenarios how both of our technologies can be used together.
Yeah, and I love it because it's if you click, let's say, industries, for example, explore industries, and then you can also choose, the different customers of Microsoft and SAP, and you choose, I don't know, retail, for example. We always get such a question as like, give me a kind of customer who can, as an example, right? So if you would here, I don't know, choose, a retailer, let's say a shop, I don't know, as an example here. You go more into detail, and on the bottom, for example, there will be also the official public use cases of a customer, right? With the joint Microsoft and Azure, Microsoft and SAP customer in Azure. I think, for example, Walgreens is here. Similar like on innovation, in different innovation scenarios. Again, if you go through it, you would also see it's not just innovation, but which customers are using it, right? Which is nice, it's not just this plain marketing story, but it's really a kind of real life, So I like it, kind of it's shown in a more cartoon way and easy to digest with some concrete examples, so which makes really trustful the whole story behind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I couldn't find it right now, but I think they are then also really talking about some of the components that are used, for example, to fulfill these different innovations or to fulfill in these scenarios for manufacturing, and then go a little into detail. What does it actually mean?
So there are papers or videos, where they would say more, more. So maybe here it's more very high level, so to say, on a kind of overview, okay, they're talking IoT or whatever, or artificial intelligence on it's very high level, but each customer has a kind of different maybe scenario a little bit and different implementation. So I mean, for each specific customer, if you check it, then like, I don't know, Toyota, okay, this is you see it's a video, one it's code, it's a video, Toyota, it's a read more, so it should be a kind of white paper or kind of document, right, where it's more, right, yeah. So very, very practical, yeah, because I see those kind of questions or hear all the time. Yeah, give me specifically also about the industries, there's always many customers ask which comes from the same industry. Give me an example of another customer from the same industry, right? As an example. So very useful, yeah.
And I think it also shows nicely or outlines some of the things that it's not only about the infrastructure piece. It's not only about just running or doing a lift and shift and having your SAP system on Azure, but it's really also, what do you do next? How can I leverage the business technology platform? How can I use the different Azure services to then work with my data?
Exactly. So end-to-end story, which is really excellent. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. The next thing is another blog from Martin. So Martin Pankratz is really, really active right now, and we talked about his blog, about his previous blog. Yeah, I think this was the one where we had a Power App that they're using internally to start and stop a system. And I think, Goran, this is also leveraging a lot of work from you that actually, I mean, this is just the user interface, but obviously there's also a lot of stuff that goes under the hood. But in order to use these tools, and again, the Azure Fast Track team is really using this internally. So here, I think in this step, he now talks about how can we onboard new users. And what I actually really like, because I had a similar scenario with a customer once, he's using Excel forms, or I'm not sure if it's called Excel, but Microsoft Forms for a very, very simplified user interface. And then from this form, he uses Power Automate to trigger the flow, to do the group assignments and everything. So I think that's a really nice story. Again, bring different components together.
Yeah. So actually, he upgraded a bit his functionality, UI functionality, with the possibility to do a reservation. So that was a kind of also not just the Fast Track team, but also some cloud solution architects are using this for their own demo system. So basically, there was a request, okay, can we somehow, they share the environment and they want that each user is reserved one and the same system just for himself for a certain time. right? So this is basically enhancement of the existing UI with this additional functionality. And yes, he's calling kind of mine backend functionality to start and stop, right? So, which is really much, so additional functionality again in a nice way to consume it through a nice user interface, definitely.
And maybe just as a teaser, hopefully we'll have Martin and yourself, Goran, soon
and
on the
Robert
podcast.
Bureau, another one, next week, I believe.
Right?
Yeah,
exactly. Where we then can go into more details on this flow and take a look under the covers there and get some more insights. Cool. Good. Then I think we talked about that there's a new developer edition, ABAP 1909, available. And obviously there are some great blog posts available that really talk about how to get started, how to use on Docker Hub the image, how to deploy it and so on. And now in this SAP CodeTalk with Ian Thane, Andres Fischer actually talks about some of the new functionalities and what is needed there to actually deploy it. So I think I've always been a fan of the SAP CodeTalk. So it was nice to see Andre there being interviewed and talk about this. So I think if you are interested in the ABAP 1909 edition, then it's definitely worth to spend 8 minutes and 54 seconds to listen to Ian and Andre on this. Okay, then one last summary or look back. Yesterday, actually, we had our Extending SAP Solutions Using Microsoft Power Platform webinar. There were quite a lot of folks showing up. There were a lot of questions, and I hope I was able to answer most of the questions via the chat. The webinar is over, but you can still watch it on demand. So if you are interested in integrating Power Platform via the custom connector to your OData service on the SAP side, then maybe you can still take a look at this. We also published quite a lot of related videos here on this channel that really outlines all the steps to create these demos by yourself. So for example, there were a lot of questions on how do I get access to an SAP system and stuff like that. How can I actually do this connection during the webinar? And hopefully in these videos we explain how you can do this on your own. This is all available as a free trial, so you can also do this there. So if you're interested, then check this out.
I have one suggestion. I think maybe you cover somewhere, but I don't see it currently. So maybe one suggestion for you, Power Platform guy. Can we somehow have a session with someone? I think it will be interesting to discuss about how that reflects to licenses in SAP.
That's a good point. And let me actually quickly cover this. We are mainly talking about, obviously there's a Power Platform license that you need, and you need an SAP license. I mean, that's a given. But then, since we clearly say that we want to have a single sign-on flow, so we want to make sure that the user on the Power Platform is also a user in the SAP system. The scenario should be that the user in the SAP system is already licensed, obviously. And then there should not be any additional licensing costs on this. But as always, since customers might have very specific licensing terms and conditions, I would always recommend to check with SAP on this as well, just to be on the safe side. But I would say if customers are really implementing a single sign-on flow, then it's not like you have one technical user that gives access to hundreds of thousands of Microsoft users. If you really have this one-to-one mapping, then personally, I don't see any issues with this as long as the SAP user is actually licensed in the SAP backend system.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good. But yeah, check it out. I think Power Platform is definitely worth giving it a try. So with this very quick overview of a very quick look back at this week, I think it's time to hand over to Ram. And we had talked about the Azure Monitor for SAP solution back, I think, in one of our very first podcasts, where we had Tobias Niekamp there introducing the Azure Monitor for SAP for the first time. And so I'm really happy to have Ram here in the call to give us some more insights of what has happened in the meantime and what you can actually do. So Ram, maybe you can start by introducing yourself, and then I'm looking forward to the presentation that you have prepared.
Perfect. Hey, my name is Ramakrishna Ramadurgam, and I'm part of Microsoft engineering team called Platform Engineering, who are responsible for enabling telemetry and building features on Azure for SAP workload. So today we're going to talk about what happened from when Tobias talked about the features that are available on AMS to today, right? Mm-hmm. So there are videos on Azure, SAP on Azure YouTube channel talks about what AMS is all about. So I would recommend all our customers to go refer those videos to know more insights about what AMS has to offer. But I'll touch very brief today. So Azure Monitor for SAP Solutions, also known as AMS, is a Azure native monitoring service for customers running SAP workload on Azure. And then our goal is to make customers easily monitor their SAP workload. We have different provider types that were added before, like SQL, HANA, high availability, and now the latest addition to the providers is NetWeaver. So that concludes, and it doesn't conclude, but it adds a lot of value on how customers can monitor different layers of SAP, right? Be it your DB, be it your Azure components, and now the NetWeaver. Mm-hmm. We are private preview as we speak, and we would be going public preview in a few weeks. We are evolving. We are learning from few customers onboarded to the private preview. We are learning from how customers onboard to it, and then the issues that we see. So we are making it a solid service ready to ship in a few weeks from now. So with that, I'll share my screen. So one second.
Yeah, perfect.
So we just talked about what AMS is all about. It provides simplified monitoring, and it captures end-to-end telemetry. I would show in a brief, and then also it is native Azure offering available on at Azure Marketplace, right? So it supports SAP workloads, both VNs and HLI. Now with NetWeaver, that adds a new dimension to it. You could monitor NetWeaver on ABAP or NetWeaver on Java. It doesn't matter, even your S4 HANA. And it is easy to customize, and we all know it's an open source as well, right? So let's briefly touch upon the architecture. It is no different than the current architecture that AMS is built on, right? So there are two components to it. One is the framework, the other one is the provider type. So what we are today focusing more on the provider type, which is SAP NetWeaver provider type. So customers can go into onto Azure portal and start creating the resources for Azure Monitor for SAP Solutions. Once customer creates those resources, it creates the managed resource group in their own subscription that has three key components, three resources: the log analytics, collector VM, and key vault. Collector VM is the key component of the three, where the collector code is sitting in here to collect the data from different source types. So we have provider types for collecting data from HANA, SQL, Pacemaker, and then we recently added this NetWeaver provider that collects the data telemetry from SAP NetWeaver layer.
And you said, so NetWeaver can mean both the ABAP stack and the Java stack. So if I have a NetWeaver portal running still on Java or something like that, then it would also work with NetWeaver Java components?
Yeah, it does. But we are trying to fully, utilize all different Java methods that we could pull from. Right now, it does work, but it will not pull all the relevant metrics for Java at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So there is a prerequisite step for customers to onboard to this solution, and I will go through that now. So the basic premise of how we collect this data is leveraging SAP Start Serve Web Service Control. So every SAP instance has a start service, right? So start service is then available, exposes some of these web methods through a SOAP protocol, and we tap into those web methods to pull the data from NetWeaver layer, right? For us to use those web methods through the collector code, we request or we ask customers to unprotect these 5 methods in their instance, and then this requires a restart of a system, right? So they need to go into the T code RZ11 and then edit the profile parameter to unprotect these methods. Once this is the only prerequisite step that customers have to do. Go to the profile parameter, unprotect, and that's it. Once they restart the system, it is ready for customers to onboard into the AMS for NetWeaver monitoring.
Is this really RZ11 or is it RZ10 actually?
Oh, RZ10, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Since we are a private preview, I don't want to share the URL to broader the customer yet because we are learning as we speak. But I can show you, though the demo won't be a full-fledged demo, but I could show you how customers can, enable the service on Azure Monitor for SAP solutions. So as stated, this service is available on Azure Marketplace. Customers can go click on that to create. So there are 2 ways customers can enable this. For an existing customers, if AMS framework is already created, all they have to do is add the provider. And for the net new customers, they have to create the AMS framework plus the provider, right? So I'll just do a small demo where I won't go through all the parameters in the screen, but I'll just show how the NetWeaver provider looks like based on what we select here. So, once you select the resource group, and then you would provide the resource name for the provider. I'll just say SAP Mon demo for today. And then AMS is available in different regions. So choose the region that is closest to your SAP workload. That way we could avoid the latencies, right? So maybe I'll just go with West US2 for now. And the virtual network. So since I don't have any VNet associated, because this is not a SAP resource group, it doesn't show. But the essence is like, I can go on now, click on the add provider. In the add provider, we do have different provider types, including NetWeaver. So this is the essence of how you can enable this NetWeaver provider. So you just give a name, demo, and then host name. So host name is nothing but your SAP instance host name. It can accept IP address, and we have seen few issues with customers just providing the IP address. So it will work for the first time, but our collector code gets all the instances available on that SID, and then it tries to establish a connection through host name, and then it creates some compatibility issues with the DNS. So what we recommend customers do is provide the host name and instance number associated to that host name, and then the subdomain. So this is another critical information if your VM is not domain joined to avoid any DNS resolution issues. So we would ask that too.
Can you put any host name of the SAP instance, or you need some specific instance of the SAP?
That's a very good question. It can be any host name. It could be primary application server or secondary.
Central services also, maybe, or okay.
And once you provide this subdomain, the next thing would be logical grouping of your SID. Like, I would just go with MSX or MSS, whatever SID that is associated with it. And once you add the provider, you would see the metrics similar to what I'm going to show right now. So there are different metrics that we collect, like your instance availability, your processes within that instance, like your dispatcher, your ICM, your NQ replication state, and also a number of logs. It's not about just collecting the data. We try to show some of the insights that is helpful for the customers to know if their SAP instance is healthy or not healthy. There you go. So the other beauty of this NetWeaver-Prodvider is you can add all your SIDs in your landscape into one view in one provider, and then you will have a view of all your SAP systems in one go. So that's the beauty of it. The way you could see it here.
Yeah, and so, I via these colors, I can immediately see then, for example, in this specific case, that everything is fine. All the SIDs are available. There are no errors. So that looks like a very healthy state right now.
That's the nirvana state that any customer would want to be in.
Yes.
So what would happen if some instance you added a system and you stop some of the instances? So would you see them that they are stopped, or?
Yep. Yeah, that's what you would see it actually. So I'll just take a step back there. If you look at this overview tab, this is the current state, as near real time as it could be. Like, and it takes 1 minute to pull this data. So this is the current state of your system availability, right, on different SIDs that you were onboarded into the NetWeaver-Prodvider. And then if it is green, means it's available. If it is red, for whatever reasons, if it is stopped, if it is red, it shows in red. And if there are any issues with collecting the data from a provider type, then it will show in this blue color, right? So then it's not an issue with your system, but it's an issue with how we collect the data. Right? That way we segregate different color legends for customers to easily identify where things are going south as far as their SAP systems are concerned. And then once you select a specific SID, or you could leave it as is, it will show the trend of last 15 minutes. Am I available? I'm available now. What was my availability for last 15 minutes, right? So you can check this specific system is available last 15 minutes, 100%, meaning, I didn't have any downtimes, right? So that's the metrics that we are showing here. And then there is another view in the same overview tab by application server. Each SIDs constitute multiple application servers, like your primary, secondary, your NQ replication server. All that is part of your SID, right? So once you get into this tab, you would see all the listed application servers that tells you whether they're ABAP server or they're NQ server, and their status of each of those processes in that SID, right? So that's the beauty of it's not about just SID, but also the application servers that constitute your SID and their status, health status, right? That's what you could, we don't have a screenshot of that here, but you would then be able to see which application server. So if for whatever reasons this SID is red or yellow, you would then go in further detail to check what application server is constituting that status, right? So that's the essence of it.
So I can then really drill down and get additional information, additional insights on what's the state of is my dispatcher running, or is the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So now that's the point in time, real time, 15 minutes view. And now how about, I wanted to check my trend for last 7 days, 48 hours for your live site reviews or whatnot, right? So this availability tab comes handy there, where you could check how is my availability trend for last 48 hours for a specific SID that I chose, right? So, and any application server. So it shows that both of the selected SIDs shows 100% available for last 48 hours, right? For whatever reasons, if anything goes down, you could check what process in that SID is going down. Fortunately here, everything is 100%. All our dispatcher, gateway, ICM, NQ, replication, our message server, everything looks green, 100% great. As I said, it's a nirvana state for any customers to be in. So
And
that's
just to clarify, I mean, the Azure Monitor obviously is collecting all this information, and I have the raw data, I guess, accessible. But these screens that you're showing right now, they're all templates or pre-built. So if I just go into the Azure Monitor for SAP Solutions, then I obviously need to connect the providers and everything that you just showed you. But then I get these screens out of the box, so I can immediately get these overviews there without me doing some additional configurations or whatever. This is what I immediately get.
That's right. This is the workbook available for customers. Canned queries we created pre-built for customers, and log.
Go on.
And the log analytics has this data, the raw data. If customers wanted to build on top of what we have pre-built for them, they're welcome to do it actually.
Yeah, that was actually exactly what I want to ask. That I can then create using log analytics. I can create new dashboards or workbooks or whatever because data are there. Okay.
Yeah, data is available for customers and they can do anything they want to.
Nice.
So the next very critical one, which is your work process utilization, right? So I wanted to, check how if there is a performance issue from a customer's, like, my process is running longer, this view will come handy. Check if there are enough work processors to complete that process, like, be it your background process or dialog process, your update, whatever, right? So this view shows how many were configured, how many work processors are configured per SID, and then how their utilization over the period of time, right? So this could come handy to check if you're going above and beyond threshold, configured threshold, or are you well within the threshold, right? It could serve both, like, are you over allocating resources or under allocating resources, right? So it will help that. And also this data can help customers who wanted to auto scale or dynamically scale based on, we're trying to do a POC in Microsoft too, where we dynamically scale based on work process utilization. This data can be a byproduct of any other things that customers wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Or I guess, since the data is really available for me in log analytics, I could also obviously apply alerts or something like that, sending out an alert that the threshold now has been reached. And maybe if I'm not as sophisticated yet to have really this auto scaling in place, like what you're trying to do now, but at least it would be good to get some notification that maybe the admin should take a look at what's going on and maybe start preparing, installing an additional application server or whatever. But since this data is really now part of Azure Log Analytics, I can obviously apply all these features that are there, like the whole alerting and alerting framework and stuff like that.
And actually, you could call my start and stop of the application.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Since you talked about alerts, Holger, so we have a roadmap for alerts, pre-built alerts, like how we pre-built workbook. So we're trying to create that for customers too. But until then, customers can go create their own alerts because each customer have a different thresholds, right? So they can go and create those alerts for themselves.
Very nice.
So next, a very critical component of SAP, which is NQ, your overall health of your NQ server, your application status, and a number of logs that are being created with any errors. All that information you could find that in one view, and you could create n number of alerts on this data. So because it's very critical component of SAP, we have seen several times where NQ overflow occurs and your replication status is not green, and your logs at a given point in time go beyond threshold. All that you could create an alert, and then your DRIs or your support team can look into those errors and then react immediately than waiting for somebody else to tell them, right? So this view is all about that. You could see we also try to provide some insights on this data. If you're uptrending or downtrending in terms of any errors that you're seeing, or number of logs that are being created in the system, including your application state. I mean, you could see here it's in critical state. I mean, meaning something is not right. If you have a high availability for your NQ server, say if it is critical, meaning if it fails, your primary fails, then you have an issue, failing over to the secondary, right? So that level. And then other insight that what we provide here is the threshold. What you see here is the moving average, like meaning we check for last 24 hours, how many logs are being created at 99th percentile, and then we establish a threshold, and then we compare it against current logs that are being created. So meaning last 24 hours, you're here at 99th percentile, but now today, I mean, your logs are going beyond the threshold for yesterday. So that way you can compare what it was the state in yesterday, and then then compare it with current processes that are running in NQ.
Nice, yeah.
And last but not the least, the queue statistics gives you a glimpse of how is your utilization. Like, you have different processes that are configured in your system. Are you utilizing 100%? Are you utilizing what percentage of it is being utilized? Like, it looks at, I mean, some of these are test systems, sandbox systems that you see they're underutilized. But we don't want to see this in your production system, like where you created 3,000 work processors and then only one work processor being utilized. So that tells you something, you're over allocating your resources, right? So that's what this insight tells about. And also, the last 12 hours, how is your work process utilization and status? Like, is it okay, not okay? When it is not okay, meaning like, there is no enough processors available for any work, any process that runs in SAP, right? So that kind of a view or a glimpse that we're giving here.
Very nice, yeah. It's actually pretty cool how, I mean, typically when you think of Azure Monitor, obviously you know that you can monitor the CPU and memory of your virtual machine, but it's really nice to see that we're now going way deeper, so we can really see what's actually happening. I mean, at first you just talked about the dispatcher, the gateway processing, all this kind of stuff. But now we're going actually even one level deeper, looking at the NQ logs, looking at here the different queue statistics. So now all of a sudden in Azure we have much more insights of what's actually going on in our SAP system, and obviously customers can use that to get better insights on what's happening in the SAP system, and also take actions out of this. Maybe connecting this again with alerting, or maybe some triggers with implementing a logic app that triggers some additional functionality. So I think that's really, really great insights that we get here from the SAP system.
I think what is additional to what you mentioned is that you now can combine, utilization for virtual memory. If it's 80%, you don't know why is 80%. Now with combination with this one, you have a little bit more information, but the perfect world will be that you see that utilization what services is 80%, but this is not equal also that the virtual machine is utilized 80%. So now you will see that what is wrong inside your virtual machine and which services are responsible for that.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
Combination is a power, is very, very nice.
Yeah.
Actually, this is opening a new use case or additional use case to about the alerting, about the knowledge why it's happening. So okay, now you're showing it, nice, but because if you collect, and when you collect all of them, okay, this creates a potential to come with such alerting and even suggestions, okay, why is something wrong as a next step, for example, right?
You can say that when machine is 80%, but when application service process is also under 60%, you can combine that, and then you have much more precise reactions.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Absolutely. Actually, we have a roadmap on this. We are not stopping here. As I said, we are creating the alerts as the next roadmap, and then also we're trying to bring a lot of other data that is very critical, like your STO3, your SDF-SMON, and your bad jobs, your failed updates, short dumps. that brings the full 360-degree view of your NetWeaver to ensure that no stone is unturned. I mean, you would get that view going forward. So that will be in V2. So we are working on when that will be ready.
Perfect. And I mean, now we're just taking a look at the NetWeaver-Prodvider, but obviously we have the HANA, we have the pacemaker. So I think it's really a beautiful holistic view that we are now getting on an SAP system running on Azure, and obviously then we can work with this data. Really nice.
So one question. I mean, in most cases, when we are talking about monitoring SAP systems out of SAP tooling, in SAP world, in most cases, we need to somehow certificate those tooling to be able to somehow work with them in SAP with support, and somehow to have guarantee for SAP support that those data are valid. How that reflect to this solution? Are we planning to certificate that with SAP, or is there any discussion with SAP in that direction?
So that's a very good question. Since we are not going to create our own custom programs to get this data, it's out of the box data that SAP provides, right? So we are not going that route. But we could definitely think about it. I mean, if some customers they look for SAP certified by SAP. If that is the case, we may try to do it, but we don't have that in plan for now.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Does it exist official certification for monitoring at all?
Yeah.
No, it's a monitoring. It's not monitoring. It's interpretation of monitoring.
Okay. Yeah. Well, still you need something official.
I'm just guessing. I'm also not sure. It's just a question.
Yeah, it's a very good question, though. I think I didn't even thought through. I was thinking only when we create a custom solution where customers, why do they want to create their our custom code into their landscape, right? And obviously it has to be certified by SAP in that case. But here it's purely we are using web methods provided by SAP. That's what we're doing it here.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think that exactly in the very first step, what you said is you need to activate these different web services, basically, or web methods, so that you can access this and retrieve the data there, and then build these visualizations and everything. Nice.
So that concludes the AMS NetWeaver-Prodvider. Happy to answer any questions. Reach out to me. We are trying to build a team to create more value to this service. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions and the roadmap, anything. Yeah.
Okay. Can you just share the link or on the GitHub where someone can find that on GitHub?
Yeah, sure. It is open source. It is. I will share the link for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so, great. Okay, thank you.
One question there while you look this up, or I mean, we can also obviously put the link in the show notes. But when you said this is currently in private preview, right?
That's right.
So if how would what's the best way if I'm now interested in using this? Would I send you an email, or what's the best way to get in contact?
The best way to contact is, definitely reach out to me since we are private preview, because we are hand-holding customers, to onboard, understand if there are any issues and get their customer feedback, because we wanted to make this product better, reiterate, and then, go public preview. For now, yes, you could reach out to me and I will share the DL that the customers can reach where someone from my team will answer our answer to their queries or questions on how to onboard to this solution. Sure.
Perfect. Or let me put it the other way: are you looking for customers, or is it better if customers should wait for the public preview?
We do have a handful of customers signed up for it, but if somebody wanted to do it, definitely yes, we would welcome to try this solution and get their feedback.
Oh, great.
Okay.
So this is the GitHub link that I'm showing. So you could see the payload. provider type, and then you would see the NetWeaver. It's a Python code, and then yeah. So this is where it's all open to anybody. Like they can go and check how we do it. It's all there. Customers can look at it. The methods that we use, everything is written there, including the methods, web method I just showed you here in the JSON.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Perfect. Great.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you, Holger.
No, thank you, Ram, for joining. And I know you wanted to do a demo, and we had some connectivity issues there, but I think that was really great. So thank you very much for this. Walking us through the process of showing us how the solution works. I think that was really helpful. So thank you very much for that.
My pleasure.
Great.
Good. With this, I think we're done for today. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching. And yeah, see you soon.